Good day everyone and welcome to the Agenda 2063 Human Development Zone, brought to you by the Education Support Forum. My name is Edzai Zvobwo and I am here to introduce you to the program that the African Union and its partners are running in order to achieve human development in Africa. So we are going to be looking at questions that are being posed by different people on one of our sites, which is mathsg.com, right? mathsge.com. And if you do /Q&A, that's where you're going to find the questions that are being asked. So currently we have about 30 questions that have been asked by different people to say, please explain to us what this Agenda 2063 is all about. How can young people be involved in this initiative to develop Africa? Considering that the majority of Africans are very young, with an average age of 19 years, that is quite young compared to all the other continents. So it's important that whatever the African Union and its partners are doing, they have to include young people of the continent. They have to have co-creation of solutions for the future. Considering that Agenda 2063 is like a 50-year plan, right? Or a 50-year program. It means that by the time 2063 comes, a lot of the old people will be gone. If you look at the ages, right, they'll be gone. So it means young people have to be involved right now because they are the ones who are going to be there, and they are the ones who have the new knowledge. We're living in a tech-infused world, and some of our old people don't necessarily understand this context. So experience plus youth together, I think, will be able to find sustainable solutions to Africa's problems. So we're going to be covering one question at a time and just looking at it in detail and trying to understand exactly how you and I, in our personal capacity or in our organizational capacity, can be able to meaningfully contribute to Agenda 2063. That is, we want to achieve the Africa that we want, the Africa of our dreams, not that Africa that is full of problems, the one that is seen by the whole world and should be doing well, So the first question that we're going to look at, and by the way, once you go to mathsg.com /Q&A, you can ask questions there, or you can actually answer the questions that other people have already asked as well. So it's a forum for everybody to be able to contribute, because as you know, I've just been nominated and selected as an ambassador for youth with the African Union Development Agency, formerly known as NEPAD. So I have a platform whereby I hope to use and be your voice as African youth to be able to contribute and sit at the table and say, this is what the African youth are thinking. But for me to know what you're thinking, you have to be able to post on this platform and tell me, because this is the only way I can communicate to the masses across the continent to say, what is it that we need? So whether you're a youth formation, whether you are an individual, whether you're a company or your school, I urge you very much to say, please contribute, ask questions, and then we'll take these questions and take them to the decision makers out there, the African Union, and make sure that and push them and advocate for them to be implemented. So we don't want to be part of a talk shop. We don't want to be part of the old way of doing things, because we are coming in with energy and saying the African Union is a perfect vehicle to deliver development to the continent of Africa. But it needs to be up to date with what's happening. It needs to be more energetic and more action oriented than ever, right? So the first question that we're looking at is says that how come most African youths don't know about the Agenda 2063 aspirations. So yes, I mean, yeah, a lot of youth actually don't know about Agenda 2063. Maybe they passed by it somehow at school, just in passing, but there's no emphasis on it. And in the mainstream media, these development stories are not covered that much, you know. So, I mean, they'd rather have you talking about celebrities breaking up or cheating on each other, you know, that kind of stuff, tabloid stuff. So we need to try and make sure that the media covers the developmental aspects, but they need to cover them in such a way that they are relatable to the youth, you know. Because if you're competing with a celebrity on Instagram, you know, you gotta have quality to be able to capture the eyeballs, the attention of the youth, you know. So it's got to be relevant. We can't push this information to the youth even in a boring format. So I think the formatting of the messaging is important, and that has been established. I mean, when we had the conference a few days ago, that was the main thing, to say how do we get to the youth in a sexy way, in an attractive way, such that they can engage and in their own circles, in their own way, contribute to the Agenda 2063, right? Okay, so but anyway, I'm just going to read out the aspirations that is outlined by the African Union, right? So Agenda 2063 aspirations. So it says, our aspirations for the Africa we want. Number 1, a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. So we're saying that the first one is, we want a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. So yeah, we want a development that is sustainable, that lasts, not these bubblegum development projects that we've seen crop up and die, you know, in no time. And also, it shouldn't be development where we're just looking at Human Development Index or whatever, GDP, but on the ground, people are actually suffering, you know. So we need to be able to measure and implement development that includes everybody, because we don't want to widen the gap, you know, where the Gini coefficient is so high, you know. So we have to make sure that we take everybody with us. No one should be left behind in the development that we envisage as Africa. Then number 2, an integrated continent, politically united and based on the ideals of Pan-Africanism and the vision of Africa's renaissance. So the rise of Africa, I mean, there's been so much talk about that, and I mean, the people on the ground don't see the rising of Africa, right? But obviously Africa has been doing well in terms of many indices of development, or I mean, on paper, right? So we have to make sure that we first of all integrate our systems, we integrate our language, we integrate our vision, and then from there, with that view of a shared value, we'll be able to make decisions together. So I think the African Union has made strides already with the free trade area, where I think 22 countries have ratified the free trade area, and that's a start, really. That's a big, bold move that they're actually doing, but they need to move faster though, hey? They need to move faster, such that once we start speaking with one voice, we can negotiate, because we'll have the numbers. I mean, look at China. China alone is a market, is over 1 billion people. India is above 1 billion people. So you find individual countries in Africa, when negotiating with like the European Union or China or the United States, we are very small as nations. But if we group up and become a bloc, whether it's SADC or it's ECOWAS or ideally the whole of the African Union, then we have negotiating power, we have bargaining power. So it means that we have to have Pan-Africanist views, right? Where we look at Africa as one big continent that is diverse countries, but united politically for the vision of what? Of developing the country, of developing the continent, right? Africa is not a country. Yes, so we have to make sure that we unite towards one purpose, and Agenda 2063 sets the tone for us in that regard. Then we have number 3, an Africa of good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice, and the rule of law. I mean, this cannot be stressed any further. I mean, when we started good governance, I mean, corruption has ravaged the continent, and it's no secret that we have mismanaged our continent, a continent that is full of youth, a continent that is full of mineral resources, all the natural resources, good climates, the human capital, everything. We have everything we need to succeed. So, but it's just that the continent has been mismanaged. So we need to make sure that we install institutions that can safeguard the tenets of good governance and democracy, right? And then without the rule of law and human rights and justice, it's difficult to prosper, because if you make your money, then what stops someone from coming and stealing it from you or taking it away from you? If there are no property rights, if there's no rule of law, then how can you possibly amass wealth? You know, you could make the money, but then you can't keep it, because keeping the money is part of wealth creation, you know. So we need human rights and peace as part of the prerequisites for a wealthy Africa. Then number 4 says a peaceful and secure Africa. So this one is quite a big one, because without peace, how can you possibly plan for 50 years to come? You know, how can you plan for 2063 if there's no peace? How can you possibly thrive and become the best you can be if there's no peace? So we need to find ways of dealing with conflict that are non-violent. And as you know, the African Union has got a key goal to say that let's silence all the guns on the continent by 2021. And it is important that we all contribute in our own little ways to this ambitious but praiseworthy target to say, let us get peace in Africa. Let us have a secure Africa, because without security, then how do we prosper? You know, it's almost like a rule of law as well. You know, if there's chaos, then it'll be really difficult for us to be taken seriously by our trading partners, and also for us to thrive in our own continent, you know. Then the next one, number 5, is in Africa with a strong cultural identity, common heritage, shared values, and ethics. Yeah, you know, I've always said that Africa is not philosophically bankrupt. Africa has got some of the best philosophies that define humanity, and if we can tap into those ones and actually appreciate the values that we have in our cultures and share with the world, because it's an increasingly global world, right? It's a global village, but we don't have to lose ourselves in order to play in this space. You know, we have to be able to be authentically African, at the same time letting other cultures for our own benefit as well, just like everyone else is doing. So we need to be culturally strong. We don't want our languages, our cultures to be extinct after some time. I mean, because look at us now, we're all speaking in English. The more English you are or French you are, then people think you've made it, but that's not true. So we need our heritage to be preserved. And I know one of the key projects that NEPAD, that is the African Union Development Agency, has, is about having an Africa museum where we preserve our history in a common place, not necessarily geographic, but a common standard of preserving culture. So yeah, hopefully that is achieved, and it can only be achieved if you and I play a part in it in whatever way, capacity that we can. Obviously, some will be able to do big projects. Some will be able to influence across borders. Some will be able to just influence their neighbor or just their family. It's okay, as long as we are moving in the same direction and we're guided by the same values, we're guided by the same vision, because without shared value, we are weak. Okay. Then number 6, it talks of an Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential of African people, especially its women, youth, and caring for children. So yes, this is saying that the greatest resource that Africa has before the natural resources and all that is its people. We have fantastic people with many abilities, with so much wisdom, and we should not segment ourselves, because that makes us weaker. Because I mean, if you say you're taking out all women and just men have an opportunity, then that means that we are operating at 49% efficiency, you know, as opposed to having everyone come to the party. Then, you know, we're going to have nearly 100% efficiency, you know. So it's important that we don't marginalize any groups based on gender, based on sex, on identity, of any other of those variables that people use to discriminate people. So we don't want discrimination. We want an inclusive growth, like what number 1 said, the first aspiration. So for us to be prosperous, we need to tap into the wisdom, into the energy, into the aspirations of every African, no matter where they are, no matter what color they are, what size they are. As long as we have a unity of purpose, then you'll find that we will achieve success, right? So our people, women and children especially, we need to protect them. We need to give them an opportunity to be the best they can be, because as you know, I mean, so much research has been done around this, that diversity is the key ingredient to success. And then the 7th and final aspiration for 2063 is that Africa is a strong, united, resilient, and influential global player and partner. Yes, I touched on it before to say we don't live on an island, we live in a global village, and we have to understand how the world works. We have to understand how the monetary system of the world works. We have to see and understand the inflows and outflows of wealth, whether monetary or commodities and all that, and see where in the global value chain we can actually plug ourselves as Africa to be able to optimize in our output to the world, and also in enhancing trade, basically. You know, I know a few years ago China used to be the industrial zone for the world, right? Everybody was manufacturing, was going to China, but now the dynamics are changing, because China now the labor costs are going high, and it's also it's a fast developing country to an extent whereby some of the manual jobs, the low paying jobs that were being dumped in China, they are now being rejected. Some countries like America are looking into bringing back jobs to America. So we need to actually understand those dynamics to say, where do we play? And because we've got a 50-year plan, how does the 50-year plan align with what's happening in reality? I mean, and I hope that the African Union is agile enough to actually change even the aspirations and the goals and objectives and projects of Agenda 2063 in line with what's happening, because the world is changing at a very fast pace, and if we need to update our Agenda 2063, we need to do it because it's an iterative process and it has to resonate with the aspirations of all Africans. So my question to you today is, do you think that there's 7 aspirations that were outlined by the African Union represent your views for Africa to be able to prosper? Or do you think that there's something that is missing from these aspirations? It would be nice to hear from you. So the best way that you can guarantee yourself feedback from me and my team and everyone else and all the other Agenda 2063 champions and members of the public in general is if you go to metsg.com/Q&A and then you can click on the green button that says answer, and then answer this question with your views as to what you think about the aspirations. Or you can scroll down and you'll see that there's another screen there where you can an editor where you can actually fill in. So either the green button or the editor down there, you can just answer, and we will definitely engage there. But let us work together to try and make Africa really great. Let us create the Africa of our dreams, the Africa that we want, and the youth have to be at the center. Let us get all the youth in the decision-making positions together with the older people, so that we have a fusion of experience and energy and youth. So thank you very much. My name is Edzai Zvobwo. Like I said, I am an ambassador for the NEPAD, right? Formerly called NEPAD, but called the African Union Development Agency. And yeah, you can get me, you can contact me via metsg.com. You can go to a contact us page, or you can just answer the questions and then we'll chat through that. So thank you very much.